The cargo ship Starfall twisted through space like a wounded bird. Inside the cockpit, Minho Kim gripped the controls with white knuckles as warning lights flashed red across every panel. The hyperspace engine had failed during the jump, and now his ship was falling toward an unknown planet at deadly speed. "Come on, stay together," Minho whispered to his ship. He had been flying cargo runs for 3 years, but nothing had prepared him for this. The planet below looked green and wild, covered in thick jungle that stretched as far as he could see. No cities, no landing strips, no signs of advanced civilization. The ship shuddered violently as it hit the atmosphere. Metal groaned and sparked, flew from damaged circuits. Minho fought to keep the nose up, but the starboard engine was completely dead. He was going down whether he liked it or not. Trees rushed up to meet him. Minho pulled back on the stick with all his strength, trying to find a clearing, any open space that might save his life. There, between 2 hills, a small valley with fewer trees. It would have to do. The Starfall clipped the tops of massive trees that towered hundreds of feet into the alien sky. Branches as thick as telephone poles snapped like twigs against the ship's hull. Then the ground hit. The world turned into chaos. Minho was thrown forward against his restraints as the ship bounced, slid, and finally came to rest against a cluster of boulder-sized rocks. Steam hissed from ruptured coolant lines. The smell of burning electronics filled the air for several minutes. Minho just sat there, breathing hard and checking that all his parts still worked. His left shoulder ached where the restraint had dug in, and his head throbbed. But he was alive. That was more than he had expected 30 seconds ago. He unbuckled himself and tried the main power. Dead. Emergency power flickered on, giving him dim red lighting and basic life support. The communication array was completely destroyed. Even if he could fix the engines, which looked impossible, no one would know where to find him. Minho grabbed his emergency kit and stepped outside. The first thing that hit him was the heat. It was like walking into a steam bath. The second thing was the noise. This jungle was alive in a way that no human world could match. Bird calls, insect buzzing, and strange howling sounds echoed from every direction. The trees around his crash site were enormous, their trunks so wide that 10 people holding hands could not circle them. Vines hung down like curtains, and flowers, the size of dinner plates, bloomed in colors that had no names. Everything was green, but not the simple green of earth plants. These were greens that shifted and changed as the double suns moved overhead. Something crashed through the underbrush nearby. Minho spun around, but whatever it was had already vanished into the thick vegetation. He was definitely not alone on this world. He spent the next 2 hours taking inventory. The ship's hull was cracked in 3 places. The main engines were scrap metal. The hyperspace drive was missing entirely, probably scattered across 50 miles of jungle. But some things had survived. His toolkit was intact. He had emergency rations for 2 weeks, a plasma cutter for repairs, a basic medical kit. Most importantly, his scanner still worked. It showed that the atmosphere was breathable, though thick with moisture and strange pollens that made him sneeze. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth normal, no immediate radiation threats. He might actually survive long enough to figure out how to get off this world. As the alien suns began to set, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, Minho climbed a tree near his ship to get a better view of his surroundings. The jungle stretched endlessly in every direction, but to the west he could see something different. Thin columns of smoke rising into the evening air. Smoke meant fire. Fire meant intelligence. Someone or something on this world knew how to use tools. He was about to climb down when movement caught his eye. Far below, barely visible through the leaves, something was moving through the jungle with purpose. It was too far away to see clearly, but it walked upright on 2 legs. Definitely not an animal. As darkness fell, Minho set up a basic camp inside his ship. The hull would protect him from whatever prowled this jungle at night, and the emergency power would keep the air recycled. He could hear things moving outside, large things that made the ground shake when they walked, but it was the other sounds that worried him more. Calls that sounded almost like speech, rising and falling tones that seemed to carry meaning. Whatever. Intelligent species lived here. They were active at night. He tried to sleep but kept jolting awake at every sound. Something was hunting out there, multiple somethings. And one of those sounds, a high-pitched cry that cut through the jungle noise like a knife, sounded like fear. Minho sat up in his makeshift bed and listened carefully. There it was again. Definitely a cry for help, though in no language he recognized. It was coming from the direction of the smoke he had seen earlier. Every instinct told him to stay in his ship where it was safe. He did not know this world, did not know what dangers waited in the darkness. But that cry came again, more desperate. Now, and Minho found himself reaching for his emergency kit. 3 years of flying cargo runs had not prepared him for alien worlds and unknown dangers, but 28 years of being human had prepared him for something else entirely. When someone needed help, you helped them. It was as simple as that. He checked his plasma cutter, grabbed a portable light, and stepped out into the alien night. Whatever was happening out there, he was about to become part of it. Minho pushed through the thick jungle, following the desperate cries that grew louder with each step. His portable light cut through the darkness, revealing twisted vines and strange flowers that seemed to glow with their own inner fire. The air was thick with moisture and alien scents that made his nose burn. The cries stopped suddenly, replaced by a low rumbling sound that made his bones vibrate. Whatever was making that noise was big. Very big. He crept forward more carefully now, using his light sparingly and moving from tree to tree. Through a gap in the massive trunks ahead, he could see a small clearing lit by the pale glow of Veltharas, twin moons. And there, in the center of that clearing, was something that made his breath catch. A young female of some alien species knelt beside a fallen log, her silver-blue skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with fear. She was humanoid, but clearly not human, with large, dark eyes and delicate features. Her clothing was simple, woven from plant fibers, and she clutched a small gathering basket as if it might protect her. But it was not her that made Minho's heart race. It was the creature stalking her from the edge of the clearing. The thing was a nightmare given flesh. It stood 8 feet tall on 6 powerful legs, each ending in claws the size of kitchen knives. Its hide was thick and scarred, dark green with patches of toxic yellow. Acid dripped from its mouth, hissing where it hit the ground. The alien girl was prey, and this monster was preparing to strike. The creature took a step forward, and the girl let out another cry of terror. She tried to back away but stumbled over the log behind her. The monster's eyes, burning like red coals, focused on her with predatory hunger. Minho did not think. He just moved. He burst from the tree line with a yell that echoed through the clearing. The plasma cutter in his hand roared to life, its blue beam cutting through the darkness. The monster spun toward him, surprised by this new threat. Up close, the creature was even more terrifying. Its mouth opened to reveal rows of needle-sharp teeth, and that low rumble became a bone-shaking roar. But Minho had faced dangerous situations before, and fear had a way of making humans think faster, move quicker, fight harder. The monster charged. 6 legs gave it incredible speed, and those claws could tear through steel. But Minho was already moving, rolling to the side as the creature thundered past. He slashed with the plasma cutter, the beam scoring a line across the thing's flank. It roared in pain and fury. The creature was learning. It did not charge blindly this time. Instead, it circled him, looking for an opening. Minho kept the plasma cutter between them, but he could see the weapon's power indicator dropping. Plasma cutters were meant for cutting metal, not fighting monsters. He had maybe 5 minutes of charge left. The monster feinted left, then lunged right. Minho barely got his weapon up in time to block a swipe that would have taken his head off. The force of the blow knocked him backward, and he rolled behind a boulder as acid spit sizzled where he had been standing. He needed a new strategy. The plasma cutter was not enough. Looking around the clearing, Minho saw broken branches, scattered rocks, and a dead tree that leaned at a dangerous angle. His human brain, evolved for tool use and tactical thinking, began to form a plan. The monster charged again. This time, Minho was ready. He dodged left and brought the plasma cutter down on one of the creature's middle legs. The beam cut deep, and the monster stumbled, off balance. Minho did not wait. He sprinted for the dead tree and began cutting at its base with what remained of his weapon's charge. The creature recovered quickly and came after him, but the damaged leg slowed it down. Minho finished his cut just as the monster reached him. The dead tree, massive and heavy, toppled forward with a crash that shook the ground. The monster tried to dodge, but 6 legs meant 6 points of failure. The tree caught it across the back, pinning it to the ground. The creature thrashed and roared, but it could not break free. Minho's plasma cutter died with a sad electronic whine. The power was gone, but he was not finished. He grabbed a sharp rock from the ground and climbed onto the fallen tree. The monster's head was within reach now, and its neck was exposed. What happened next was pure human stubbornness. Where other species might have fled or given up, Minho kept going. He brought the rock down again and again, ignoring the creature's thrashing, ignoring the claws that raked across his arms, ignoring everything except the need to end this threat. Finally, the monster went still. Minho sat back on the tree trunk, breathing hard and bleeding from a dozen cuts. His whole body shook with exhaustion and adrenaline. But it was over. The creature was dead. A soft sound made him look up. The alien girl was approaching slowly, her large, dark eyes wide with amazement. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin had changed from the rapid pulse of fear to a steady, gentle glow. She knelt beside him and reached out to touch his wounded arm. Her fingers were cool and gentle. When she spoke, her voice was musical, filled with tones and harmonics that no human throat could make. But somehow, through some universal translator or simple understanding, he caught the meaning of her words. "You fought for me," she whispered in wonder. "You bled for me. You are mine now, protector." Minho stared at her, not understanding what she meant but recognizing gratitude when he saw it. The alien girl helped him to his feet, her touch surprisingly strong. She looked at the dead monster, then back at him, and her expression changed to something like awe. She had just watched a strange creature from another world defeat one of her planet's apex predators with nothing but determination and crude tools. She had seen what humans could do when someone they cared about was in danger, and something in her alien heart recognized that this was just the beginning. Yuna helped Minho walk through the dark jungle, her bioluminescent skin providing a soft blue glow that lit their path. Every few steps she would look back at the dead creature, then at him, shaking her head in amazement. She spoke in her musical language, and though he could not understand the words, her tone was filled with wonder and respect. The village appeared suddenly between the massive trees. Minho had expected something primitive, but what he saw took his breath away. The Villani had built their homes in harmony with the forest itself. Living trees had been shaped and grown into dwelling spaces, their branches woven together to form walls and roofs. Soft lights glowed from within the organic structures, and the whole settlement seemed to pulse gently with life. Guards appeared from hidden positions, tall Villani males with the same silver-blue skin as Yuna but marked with different patterns. They carried weapons made from shaped wood and crystal, beautiful but clearly effective. When they saw Minho, they stopped in surprise, speaking rapidly in their musical language. Yuna answered them, gesturing back toward the forest and then to Minho. She spoke with authority, and the guards stepped aside, though their large eyes remained fixed on the strange alien who had appeared in their world. More Villani emerged from their tree homes as word spread. They were all humanoid, but clearly evolved from different stock than humans. Their limbs were longer and more graceful. Their fingers ended in small claws perfect for climbing, and their skin shifted color slightly with their emotions. The patterns of light beneath their skin told stories that Minho was only beginning to understand. An elderly female approached, her skin marked with intricate patterns that spoke of age and wisdom. The other Villani fell silent and stepped back respectfully. This was clearly someone important. "I am Elder Nari," she said, and to Minho's surprise, he understood her perfectly. "Yuna has told me what happened in the forest. You killed a Ravenclaw to save her life." "You speak my language," Minho said, relieved to finally communicate properly. "We learn many tongues from traders who sometimes visit our world," Elder Nari replied. "But you are no trader. Your ship fell from the sky like a burning star." "What are you, stranger?" "I'm human. My name is Minho Kim. My ship crashed and I heard someone in trouble. I couldn't just leave her to die." The elder's patterns shifted to what might have been amusement. "Couldn't just leave her? How very strange. Most species would have hidden until the danger passed." A young Villani male pushed forward from the crowd. He was tall and strong, with patterns that pulsed red with anger. "Why do we waste time talking to this creature?" he demanded. "It does not belong here. Send it away before it brings more trouble." "Peace, Jiho," Elder Nari said calmly. "This human has done something remarkable. Yuna, tell us again what happened." Yuna stepped forward, her patterns bright with excitement. "The Ravenclaw had me trapped. I was gathering night blooms for the healing ceremonies when it found me. I could not run, could not hide. It was going to kill me." She looked at Minho with something like worship. "Then this human appeared. He fought the beast with tools I have never seen. He refused to run even when wounded. He killed it with his bare hands when his weapons failed." The crowd murmured in amazement. Ravenclaws were the most feared predators on Velthara. The Villani avoided them, hid from them, but they did not fight them. The idea of actually killing one was almost unthinkable. "Show them," Yuna said to Minho. She pulled up his sleeve to reveal the claw marks on his arm. "He bled for me. He risked everything for a stranger." Elder Nari examined the wounds carefully. "These are deep. A Ravenclaw's claws carry poison. You should be dead, human." "Human biology is different," Minho said, though he was starting to feel dizzy. "We're resistant to most toxins, but I think I need medical attention." "Of course," the elder said. "Suman, prepare the healing chamber. But first, there is something you must understand, human Minho. Among our people, when someone risks their life to save another, a sacred bond is formed. The saved becomes bonded to their rescuer. Yuna now belongs to you." "Belongs to me?" Minho staggered slightly. "I don't understand. I just helped her." "It is our oldest law," Elder Nari explained. "Life debt must be repaid with life service. Yuna has declared herself yours. She will serve you, protect you, follow you wherever you go. This cannot be undone." Jiho stepped forward again, his patterns now blazing with jealousy. "This is wrong. Yuna was to be my mate. We have been promised since childhood. How can an alien take what is mine?" "She was never yours, Jiho," Yuna said firmly. "A promise made by parents is not binding when the heart chooses differently. This human fought for me when you would have hidden. He is brave where you are cautious. He is mine by right of blood and battle." "A human cannot live among us," Jiho protested. "He knows nothing of our ways. He will bring disaster." But Elder Nari was studying Minho with new interest. Perhaps the spirits have sent us something we need. Soman, What do our histories say about warriors from the sky? A young female with patterns like flowing water stepped forward. The old songs speak of star warriors who would come in our time of greatest need. They would fight our battles and lead us to victory against the great darkness. Fairy tales, Jiho scoffed. Are they? Elder Nari asked. When was the last time anyone killed a Ravenclaw in single combat? When was the last time someone fought for us instead of just for themselves? Minho swayed on his feet as the poison finally began to affect him. I think I'm going to pass out now, he mumbled. Strong hands caught him as he fell. Through blurring vision, he saw Yuna's concerned face above his own, her patterns shifting to worried blues and greens. Heal him, she commanded the others. Make him strong again. He is mine, and I will not lose him. As consciousness faded, Minho heard Elder Nari speaking to the crowd. We will see what this human is truly made of, and perhaps we will learn whether the old prophecies were true after all. Minho woke up in a room made of living wood. The walls pulsed gently with a warm golden light, and the air smelled of flowers and clean water. His wounds had been treated with some kind of bioluminescent paste that tingled against his skin. He felt better than he had any right to, after fighting a monster the size of a truck. Yuna sat beside his bed, weaving something from bright-colored threads. When she saw him wake up, her skin patterns brightened with joy. You live, she said, simply. I was worried the poison would be too strong. How long was I out? 3 days. Elder Nari says your body fights differently than ours. The poison that would kill a Villani only made you sleep. She touched his forehead gently. You are very strange, Minho of the humans. Over the next week, Minho learned to live among the Villani. They were a peaceful people who solved problems through discussion rather than violence. Their technology was based on biology rather than metal and circuits. They grew their tools, shaped living plants into useful forms, and worked with nature instead of against it. But they had problems that their gentle ways could not solve. Their water purification system was failing, leaving some families with barely enough to drink. Predators had destroyed their food storage areas repeatedly. The young Villani were leaving for other settlements because life here was becoming too hard. Minho saw solutions everywhere he looked. His engineering training and human perspective showed him possibilities that the Villani had never considered. Why don't you build elevated storage? He asked Elder Nari one morning. Keep your food supplies above ground where the ground predators can't reach them. We have tried, the elder replied. But our structures are not strong enough. They fall when the storm winds come. Minho spent the afternoon sketching designs that combined Villani biotechnology with human engineering principles. Crossed supports, redundant systems, flexible joints that could bend with the wind instead of breaking. This is interesting, admitted Sumin, Yuna's sister who had become fascinated by human thinking. You see problems differently than we do. Humans are good at solving problems, Minho said. We've had to be. Our homeworld wasn't always kind. To us. Within days, Minho was helping to rebuild half the village. His designs worked better than anyone had expected. The elevated storage areas kept food safe from predators. A new water filtration system using bioluminescent algae provided clean water for everyone. Simple changes to their farming methods increased crop yields by 30%. The younger Villani loved him. He taught them games from Earth, showed them new ways to make tools, and told them stories about space and other worlds. But not everyone was happy with the changes. He's ruining our traditions, Jiho complained loudly one evening. We've lived this way for thousands of years. Why should we change for an alien? Because his way works, Yuna replied firmly. His changes have made our lives better. Have they? Jiho demanded. Or have they made us dependent on him? What happens when he leaves? What happens when his strange alien ways stop working? It was a fair question, and one that troubled Minho as well. He had been working on repairing his ship during his free time. The damage was extensive, but not impossible to fix. With Villani biotechnology and his own knowledge, he might actually be able to get the Starfall flying again. But did he want to? Life among the Villani was different from anything he had known. They valued community over individual achievement. They solved problems together instead of competing against each other. And Yuna had become more than just someone he had rescued. She was intelligent, kind, and brave in ways that put most humans to shame. "You think about leaving," she said one night as they sat together on a platform high in the tree canopy. "Your patterns would show it if you were Villani." "Sometimes," Minho admitted. "I have a life out there, a job, responsibilities." "Do you have family? A mate?" "No. No family, no wife. Just me and whatever cargo run they assign me next." Yuna was quiet for a long time. "I do not understand this word, wife. Among my people, bonds are chosen by the heart, not by ceremonies. You saved my life. By our laws, I belong to you. But I do not wish to be owned. I wish to be chosen. I don't want to own anyone," Minho said. "Where I come from, people choose to be together because they want to be, not because of laws or debts." "Then choose," Yuna said simply. "Choose to stay or choose to go. But know that if you stay, it will not be because I belong to you. It will be because we belong to each other." Before Minho could answer, a runner burst onto the platform. It was one of the young scouts, his patterns flashing urgent red. "Elder Nari calls for everyone," the scout gasped. "Emergency council. The Far Scouts have returned with terrible news." They climbed down quickly and joined the crowd gathering in the village center. Elder Nari stood on the speaking platform, her patterns grave and worried. "The scouts have found tracks," she announced. "Ravenclaw tracks. Not one creature, but many. A full pack moving toward our territory." The crowd gasped. A single Ravenclaw was a disaster. A pack was unthinkable. "How many?" someone called out. "At least 5, maybe more. They're being driven from their normal hunting grounds by the earth tremors in the eastern valleys. They're looking for new territory. What do we do?" another voice asked. "We can't fight a pack of Ravenclaws." Jiho stepped forward. "We evacuate. Take what we can carry and find shelter with the coastal settlements. It's the only way." "And abandon our home?" Yuna demanded. "Everything we've built? Everything we are?" "Better than being eaten," Jiho shot back. All eyes turned to Minho. He realized they were waiting for him to speak, to offer some human solution to an impossible problem. "How long before they get here?" he asked. 3 days, Elder Nari replied. "Maybe 4, if they stop to hunt along the way." Minho looked around at the faces of people who had become his friends, his family. At Yuna, who had offered him a choice between belonging and freedom. At the village they had built together, human ingenuity combined with Villani wisdom. "Then we'd better get ready," he said. "Because we're not running anywhere." The next 3 days transformed the peaceful Villani village into something resembling a military camp. Minho had never commanded soldiers before, but human instinct for warfare ran deeper than training. He could see the battlefield like a 3-dimensional puzzle, each piece fitting together in his mind. "We can't meet them in open combat," he explained to the War Council on the first day. 5 Ravenclaws would tear us apart in direct fighting, but we don't have to fight fair. We have advantages they don't expect. Elder Nari leaned forward with interest. "What advantages?" "Intelligence, planning, and the ability to work together as a team." Minho spread out a map of the village and surrounding forest. "Ravenclaws are apex predators. They're used to hunting prey that runs away. They won't expect prey that fights back smart." He began drawing on the map with a piece of charcoal. "First, we create kill zones, narrow passes where they have to come at us one at a time. Second, we build traps. Not just to hurt them, but to slow them down and separate them from the pack. Third, we give ourselves escape routes so we can hit and run instead of standing and dying. Jiho shook his head. You're talking about turning our home into a battlefield. It's already a battlefield, Minho replied. The question is whether we control it or they do. The Villani had never fought a war before, but they learned quickly. Their biotechnology could be adapted for combat in ways Minho had never imagined. Vines that could grow and tighten like nooses, flowers that released clouds of blinding pollen, trees that could bend their branches into cage-like traps. Suman proved to have a talent for trap design. If we coat these thorns with sleeping poison, she suggested, the Ravenclaws will become sluggish even if the wounds don't kill them. Good thinking, Minho agreed. But make sure our people know where every trap is located. In a battle, confusion kills more fighters than enemies do. Yuna organized the young Villani into rapid response teams. They were natural climbers who could move through the tree canopy faster than anything ground-bound. We'll be your eyes, she told Minho. When the pack splits up, we'll track each Ravenclaw and guide the fighters to them. Even Jiho, despite his objections, threw himself into the preparations. I still think this is madness, he told Minho while helping to construct a pit trap. But if we're going to die fighting, we'll die fighting well. We're not going to die, Minho said firmly. Humans have been fighting things bigger and stronger than us for millions of years. The secret is making them fight our fight, not theirs. On the third day, the scouts reported that the pack had been sighted less than a day's march away. 5 Ravenclaws, just as predicted, moving through the forest like living nightmares. The largest one was even bigger than the creature Minho had killed to save Yuna. That night, the village was quiet, except for the soft sounds of final preparations. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Trap locations were reviewed one more time. Messages were sent to neighboring settlements, warning them to prepare for refugees if the battle went badly. Minho found Yuna on their favorite platform in the tree canopy. She was looking out into the forest where their enemies approached, her patterns shifting slowly between determination and fear. Having second thoughts? He asked, settling beside her. About the battle? No. About you? She turned to face him. Maybe. What do you mean? You've changed since you decided to fight for us, she said. Before you were just a lost traveler who helped a stranger. Now you're a war leader. Your people must have many battles to create fighters like you. Minho was quiet for a moment. Humans do fight a lot, he admitted. Maybe too much. But we also protect what we care about. That's not something I learned from books or training. That's just what humans do. And you care about us? About me? More than I ever expected to. He took her hand, marveling at how her skin felt warm and cool at the same time. When this is over, I want to make that choice you talked about. The one where we belong to each other because we want to, not because of laws or debts. Yuna's patterns brightened with happiness. Then we'd better make sure we both survive tomorrow. The attack came at dawn. The Ravenclaws moved through the forest like living shadows, but the Villani scouts were ready. Calls echoed through the trees, tracking each creature's position and movement. The first Ravenclaw triggered a snare trap that Suman had designed. Vines erupted from the ground to wrap around its legs, and though it broke free within seconds, those seconds were enough. A team of Villani fighters dropped from the trees above, armed with spears tipped with concentrated poison. The creature thrashed and roared, but the poison worked quickly. One enemy down. The second Ravenclaw was smarter. It avoided the obvious traps and found a path through the village defenses. But Minho had expected this. He led a team of fighters in a fighting retreat, drawing the creature into a narrow canyon where its size became a disadvantage. Crossfire from hidden positions eventually brought it down, though not before it seriously wounded 2 Villani. The remaining 3 Ravenclaws had learned from watching their packmates die. They stopped trying to hunt individually and began working together, using their superior speed and strength to bypass the traps and attack the defenders directly. This was the moment Minho had planned for. "Fall back to position 3, he called, out. "Make them follow us." The retreat looked like panic, but it was carefully coordinated. The Ravenclaws pursued eagerly, thinking they had broken the defenders' will to fight. Instead, they were being led into the killing ground. The village center had been transformed into a maze of barriers and obstacles. The Ravenclaws found themselves separated, confused, and under attack from multiple directions. But they were still incredibly dangerous. One of them caught a young Villani fighter who moved too slowly. Another broke through a barrier that should have held anything. In the end, it came down to Minho facing the pack leader in single combat, while the other defenders dealt with the remaining creature. This Ravenclaw was enormous, scarred from dozens of battles, intelligent enough to recognize Minho as the primary threat. They circled each other in a space cleared by the battle. Minho had a spear with a metal tip salvaged from his ship. The Ravenclaw had claws like swords and acid that could melt through armor. The fight was brutal and brief. The Ravenclaw was stronger, faster, and more experienced. But Minho had something it didn't expect. When his spear broke under the creature's assault, he didn't retreat or try to find another weapon. Instead, he went forward, inside the creature's reach where its claws couldn't get good leverage. Using moves that were part wrestling, part knife fighting, and part pure desperation, Minho got his arms around the Ravenclaw's neck. The creature thrashed and bucked, trying to dislodge him, but human grip strength and endurance were legendary throughout the galaxy for good reason. When the Ravenclaw finally went limp, Minho held on for another full minute to make sure it was really dead. Only then did he let go and collapse to the ground, exhausted but victorious. The battle was over. 5 Ravenclaws lay dead, and the village was safe. The cost had been high, several wounded, and 2 defenders who would never see another dawn, but they had won against impossible odds. As Yuna helped him to his feet, Minho saw something in the eyes of the Villani around him that had never been there before. Not just gratitude or respect, but recognition. He was no longer an alien stranger who had helped them. He was one of them, someone who had bled and fought for their home. "The pack is dead," Elder Nari announced to the gathering crowd. "Our village is safe, and we have learned that even the most terrible enemies can be defeated when we stand together." She looked directly at Minho. "The prophecies spoke of star warriors who would fight our battles. I think perhaps those prophecies were more than just old stories." Minho was too tired to argue with prophecies. All he wanted was to rest, to heal, and to figure out what came next. But as he looked around at the village they had defended together, at the people who had become his family, he realized he already knew what came next. He was home. 2 months after the battle, Minho stood in the clearing where his ship had crashed and considered his options. The Starfall was finally ready to fly again. Villani biotechnology had proven remarkably compatible with human engineering. Living metal that could heal itself, organic computer systems that grew rather than manufactured, power cells that fed on sunlight and water instead of processed fuel. The ship was better now than it had ever been. It could take him anywhere in the galaxy, back to his old life of cargo runs and lonely nights in empty space. All he had to do was climb into the cockpit and leave. "Having second thoughts?" Yuna asked from behind him. He turned to find her approaching through the jungle, carrying a basket of the healing herbs she had been gathering when they first met. She moved with the confidence of someone completely at home in her environment, but her patterns showed the same nervousness he felt. "Third and fourth thoughts," Minho admitted. "This is a big decision." "It is," she agreed, "for both of us." Over the past months, their relationship had grown into something neither had expected. Not the simple ownership that Villani law had initially imposed, but a partnership built on mutual respect and genuine affection. They complemented each other in ways that surprised them both. Her intuitive understanding of living systems balanced his analytical approach to problems. His human directness helped her express ideas that Villani politeness might have left unspoken. Elder Nari says the village council has made their decision, Yuna said, settling beside him on a fallen log. About what? About offering you a permanent place among us. Not as a guest or a bonded protector, but as a full member of the community. They want to make you a village elder. Minho raised his eyebrows. I'm barely 30 years old. Age is not the only measure of wisdom, Yuna replied. You've proven yourself in battle. You've improved our lives with your knowledge. The young ones look up to you, and even Jiho admits you've earned your place here. That last part was particularly surprising. Jiho had been Minho's strongest opponent, but the battle against the Ravenclaw pack had changed everything. Fighting side by side had a way of settling old differences. What did you tell them? Minho asked. That the choice is yours to make, but I hope you know that whatever you decide, you'll always have a place here. Her patterns shifted to the warm, gold that meant deep affection. You'll always have a place with me. Minho looked at his ship, then at the forest that had become more home to him than any human world ever had. There's something I need to show you first. He led her to the starfall and activated the communication system. I've been in contact with my employers, he said. The shipping company has been looking for me ever since I went missing. They're offering a substantial reward for information about my whereabouts. Yuna's patterns flickered with confusion. Isn't that good? Your people care about you. They care about their property, Minho corrected. The ship, the cargo, the employee who knows their routes and schedules. If I go back, I'll be debriefed, reassigned, and probably sent somewhere even more remote to keep me from talking about what I've found here. He pulled up another display. But I've also been talking to other people. Independent traders, researchers, even some government officials who are interested in peaceful first contact with new species. The screen showed communication logs, travel permits, and official documents. If the Villani are interested, I can help arrange formal contact with human civilization. Trade agreements, cultural exchange, protection from less friendly species who might want to exploit this world. Yuna studied the information carefully. This would change everything for my people. It would. That's why I wanted you to understand what staying here would really mean. I wouldn't just be giving up my old life. I'd be taking on responsibility for bridging two civilizations. And if you left, then someone else would find this world eventually. Maybe someone not as interested in peaceful contact. The galaxy isn't always kind to species that can't defend themselves. Yuna was quiet for a long time, her patterns cycling through colors that meant deep thought. Finally, she looked up at him with eyes that seemed to hold starlight. Do you want to stay? She asked simply. Yes, Minho said without hesitation. I've never belonged anywhere the way I belong here. I've never found people who needed what I could offer, or who offered me what I needed in return. Then stay, she said. Help us face whatever comes next. But not because of duty or responsibility or any of those heavy human concepts. Stay because this is where your heart wants to be. That evening, the entire village gathered for the formal ceremony. Elder Nari spoke the ancient words that welcomed new members into the community, but she had added new passages written specifically for this occasion. Words about strangers who became family, about bonds forged in battle, about the courage to choose love over law. When it was over, Minho found himself surrounded by friends who had once been aliens, part of a community that had accepted him not, despite his differences, but because of them. The young Villani, who had learned human games and stories, the elders who valued his tactical knowledge, the fighters who had followed him into battle against impossible odds. and Yuna, whose patterns now showed pure happiness as she took his hand in front of the entire village. "There's one more thing," Minho said as the formal ceremony ended. "I've programmed the Starfall to send a message to human space in 6 months. It will include everything we've learned about peaceful coexistence, fair trade, and mutual benefit. If anyone wants to establish contact with the Villani, they'll have to do it right." Elder Nari nodded approvingly. "You think ahead, like a proper leader should." Over the following weeks, life in the village settled into new patterns. Minho's role evolved from temporary helper to permanent partner in shaping their future. He taught advanced engineering to young Villani who showed aptitude, while learning their biosciences in return. Together, they began designing technologies that neither species could have created alone. The first human trade ship arrived 8 months later, carrying diplomats and scientists instead of soldiers and exploiters. The captain, a woman named Lihana, was impressed by what she found. "You've built something remarkable here," she told Minho as they toured the village. "A functioning partnership between two completely different species." "It wasn't easy," Minho admitted. "There were misunderstandings, cultural conflicts, moments when everything almost fell apart. But we kept talking, kept trying, kept believing it could work." The results speak for themselves. The Villani are thriving, and you found innovations that could benefit worlds throughout human space. The Trade Council is very interested in establishing a permanent relationship. That night, Minho and Yuna sat on their favorite platform high in the forest canopy, watching the human ship's lights twinkle among the stars. Their first child was growing in Yuna's womb, a miracle of cross-species compatibility that even the human scientists couldn't fully explain. "Do you ever regret staying?" Yuna asked, her hand resting on her still flat belly. "Never," Minho said honestly. "I found something here that I didn't even know I was looking for." "What was that?" "Purpose. Family. A place where who I am matters more than what I can do." He squeezed her hand gently. "A place where love grows stronger than law." Above them, the stars shone down on a world where two species had learned to build something together that neither could have achieved alone. It was just the beginning, Minho knew. There would be challenges ahead as more humans arrived, as the galaxy took notice of what they had built, as their children grew up belonging to both worlds and neither. But they would face those challenges, together. The way they had faced the Ravenclaws and the cultural barriers and all the other obstacles that had tried to keep them apart. Because that was what families did. That was what love meant. And in the end, Minho thought as he drifted, off to sleep in Yuna's arms, that was the most human thing of all.